All right. I wanted you to just see my legs, and that I'm sitting up higher. Right. So this allows my knees to drop down in relationship. I don't like this video. There we go. In relationship to, as opposed to sitting up like this. All right. So when we're like this, we're shortening our adductors and our psoas. And I am offering the opportunity while I sit right now to allow this inner line to open up a little bit. So that's my preference. Wherever you're seated, find some kind of support, pillows, blankets, bring yourself up. And then also that sweet spot, the base of the ischial tuberosities, having that as well. Finding neutral. And let's come back into cultivating the breath, finding a little ujjayi, victorious breath, lowering the gaze over the nose, allowing the breath to come in and out through the nose. Taking the breath into your right lung. And then taking the breath into your left lung. Bringing the breath down into your right hip bone, inside of the pelvic bowl on the right side. Inviting the breath into the left hip, inner bowl. And then imagining from your pelvic diaphragm, the base of the pelvis, to the diaphragm as one big balloon. Breathe into that, filling up the space from top to bottom, front and back. We're going to stack the hands on top of the sternum to connect with the heart and the wrapping around the heart protector pericardium. We're going to imagine that like a balloon. It's right about here. And we're going to breathe in to that heart protector, hydrating it with our breath. As you're breathing into the pericardium, send a few breaths down behind your lower ribs on the back body to the kidneys. And we can soften the hands down, wiggle it out a little bit from side to side. And soften your right ear to your right shoulder, not forcing it, just allowing gravity to help you find the range of motion here. And take a beautiful breath in and exhale on out. Stay with your breath. You can imagine the breath like sipping honey into the system, allowing more fluidity. Taking the breath out to a skin sensation, feeling an expansion through your whole body with each breath. Breathing into kidneys. Exhale, let the head float on top. Pause here for a moment, noticing what you notice, and then we'll soften to the left side. Again, allowing that honey breath to come on in. Still breathing into the abdomen balloon, breathing into kidneys, and breathing into pericardium. and allow the head to float up. Now we're going to turn the head to the right, about 45 degrees. So your chin is floating towards the right side of the body. And then we're going to gently tuck through the chin and breathe. Allowing the head to float back up, soften back to a neutral, and take it to the left now. Tucking through the chin. Nice, beautiful big inhale. And exhale on out long and smooth. Fill the back body with your breath. If the skin feels tight anywhere, breathe into it. Invite the breath to help move any tightness. And slowly come back up, bringing the head to neutral. Take a couple breaths here and see if you can tune into the wave-like quality of the movement from the sacrum through the spine with the inhalation and exhalation. It's like a gentle piece of seaweed floating from the ocean floor. So you have stability in the base, but movement. Then take your hands and cross them in front of your chest like the Adams family, and find your collarbones with your fingertips. And we're going to play with yes movement, anchoring through the collarbones. So with your next inhale, begin to lift up your chin. You can send the eyeballs up to the ceiling. And just feel the movement in your collarbones. And exhale, tuck through. So as we inhale, collarbones have a tendency to rotate up. And then as we exhale, they rotate down. So we're going to play with that a little bit. Let your finger pads rest on the collarbones. Let the weight of your hands hold the bones down. And then we'll inhale, resisting letting the collarbones come up. And right at the end, lift your finger pads up and let the collarbone move. Then exhale, bring the pads onto the collarbones, just underneath them, lift them up a little bit. We're going to tuck through the chin, resisting the collarbones from coming down, and then release that and let them come up, or down, excuse me. So we're going to do that again. Bring the finger pads just on top of your collarbones, just the weight. Begin your yes movement. Resist the collarbones, and then release your finger pads. Let the collarbone go up. Then bring the finger pads just below the collarbones, tuck through the chin, resist the collarbone from being able to go down, and then release that. It's very subtle, and so continue that for a few rounds, anchoring the collarbones up on top, releasing, coming underneath, holding them up. tucking through the chin, and then letting them come back down. Do that 2 more times. Good, and release the hands for a moment. Take a few breaths. Just notice any changes through your breathing. I'm noticing more broadness through the upper chest and more lateral movement with my scapula, my shoulder blades. Right. Then we're going to stack the hands on the sternum. It's just the weight of the hands. We're going to lift up with our chin. Take a deep breath in. Exhale on out. Come back to neutral and again release the hands. Take a breath. Notice any changes. So just below your collarbone, just pick your left side first. Well, actually, before you do that, turn a little bit from side to side. Just notice what your regular range of motion is. And then we'll bring the right hand to the first 3 rib spaces. So we're doing the spaces in between the ribs. And it's just gentle pressure. We're not digging in. And we're going to turn away from the way our fingers are pointed. So I'm going to turn to the right and look to the right. And I'm going to take a big inhale in. And exhale on out. And bring that back to a center. And then just take a gentle twisting from side to side. Notice if you can turn easier to one side over the other. And then we'll do the opposite side. So finger pads into the right side, in between the ribs in the intercostal spaces. And then we're going to turn to the opposite direction. Take a deep breath in. And exhale on out. And bring that back towards the center. And just twist from side to side. And maybe you'll notice a little bit more movement now in the upper chest. So we could take that potentially down through the whole rib cage. We'll do that another day. Straighten out your legs for a moment. If anybody's like me, I have a leg that fell asleep just sitting here. So I'm just going to shake out, wake that up, because we're going to do a few more seated variations. And even point and flex through your toes and be a little wiggly back and forth as you flex and point through the feet like a cooked spaghetti noodle. So we're just allowing the fascia to have movement through the whole body. So it's a little different movement than doing like a rigid Ashtanga forward fold. We're just looking for that fluidity. Good. And take some circles with the ankles, circle through the feet, and then go the opposite direction. And if you can remember which way you crossed your feet, cross the opposite direction this time. Readjust, find your support through the base. Right. And we're going to do an embryological version of cat-cow, but first we'll start with a seated cat-cow. And we're going to come up in extension first. So tuck through your head. And then inhale, begin to lift with the sternum, bringing the head up on top. Reach your eyeballs long to the sky. And then exhale, draw the belly button back, support your spine here. Tuck through your chin. Exhale fully through the lower ribs. And lifting up with the sternum, the chest bone here. Coming up, lifting up with the eyeballs, really look long through the eyes. Navel comes back to empty the lungs, tucking through the chin. And again, inhale. Lead with the eyeballs, lifting up through the sternum. Exhale. Navel comes back, supporting the lumbar spine. This time we're going to wing out with the elbows too. So inhale, reach out with your elbows, lift up with the sternum, look up with the eyeballs. Exhale, bring the elbows in, hunching and rounding. And again, inhale, reach out with the eyeballs and elbows, and round. Each time you exhale, try to really lower the back ribs down. Inhale, lift up. Out with the elbows, I forgot that. Exhale, bring that in. And one more time, inhale. And do that again. And you soften into neutral. And this time we're going to play with reaching out with the arms. So just bring your hands on the sternum. Tuck through your chin. And then as you inhale to come on up, reach up with the arms really broad, expanding out to what's out there. Outer. And then exhale, bring that back into sympathy, innerness. And again, inhale, expanding outwards, nice and broad. And exhale, bringing that back in. And continue this inhale, expansion and contraction, or relating to out there with your breath. Just be playful with this. Don't worry about perfect lifting of the sternum or rounding of the back. We're just becoming aware of inner and outer. That first week of embryology. Take a moment when you come back, just pause, come into your breath, close your eyes. Notice any micro changes in the body. We'll take that into a seated twist, bringing your right hand behind you, palm faces in. Bring the opposite arm across, finding the twist between the shoulders first. Neutralize your chin over the sternum, the breastbone. Take a deep breath in. Exhale on out. Then turn through the neck. Send your eyeballs long up to the upper corners of the room. Breathe in and out. Exhale, soften out. And we'll go to the opposite direction, bringing the left arm behind you, palm faces in. Bringing the opposite arm to the outer quadricep. Find neutral in your neck. Take a breath in. Exhale on out. Then turn through the neck. Send the eyeballs up and long. Take a few breaths here. Then exhale, come back out. Let's straighten the legs. Just shake them out again. Right, so this is more the cooked spaghetti noodle, loosey-goosey kind of movement in preparation. We're going to move to a regular cat-cow on all fours. So if your knees bother you, feel free to grab a blanket and spread the blanket out for some cushion. Right? There's no reason to have knees that are unhappy. And once you're settled in this position, we're letting the knees drop right underneath the pelvis. And if it's comfortable for your hands to be underneath the shoulders, this is fine. If this is too much on your wrist, bring the hands out in front of you, or you can even grab blocks to come up higher, whatever you need for support here. Okay, and this will just not create as much compression on the median nerve on the forearm. Gaze in between the hands. Let's tuck through the chin for a moment. And then find your inhale, lift up with the sternum. Send the eyeballs long to the ceiling. And your tail, your coccyx is lifting up towards the sky. Then exhale, draw the navel back, hunch and round. Take the gaze to the earth or round it all the way through in between the knees. And we'll continue this movement. Inhaling, looking up. Exhale, hunching and rounding. So with this variation of cat-cow, you can stay here, or we're going to move on to what's called chakra vrksasana, which is a little bit more dynamic in the movement, and it's preparatory for high planks to low planks later on in different forms of movement. So here we'll inhale, we're going to look up, and then exhale. As you exhale, you're going to take the butt back towards the heels, drop the forearms, and bring the forehead down to the mat. Then inhale, you're going to snake on up like a cobra to look up, and then exhale, hunch and round, nice and slow. And so this is like creating a giant accordion or pump through the body, moving the fluids in a dynamic way. And continue this movement with the breath, exhaling as you press back, dropping the forearms. Third eye comes down to the mat. Inhale, snake on up. Exhale, press back. If you get tired here, you can rest in a child's pose. Otherwise, continue on. Exhaling as you press back. Next time you come down, stay down in a child's pose. You can stack your fist, bringing the third eye on top of the fist, taking a moment to rest and breathe. Any variation of Balasasana child's pose is fine. Taking the breath into the kidneys. Nice, and inhale, come back up to all fours and shake it out side to side. So just wag your tail a little bit. We're checking in with lateral line, the side line of the body, making sure that we have some nice movement through there. Pausing into a center, gaze out over your right shoulder, look back towards your right ankle, and breathe. Inhale to a center. And then as you exhale, just look out over the left shoulder, back towards the left ankle. You'll feel a length from the right hip underneath towards the armpit in the right rib cage. Breathe into the right ribs. Soften back to a center. And now we're going to come down into our bellies for Sphinx, which is a preparatory pose before Cobra. So come on to your bellies. Bring your forearms out in front of you. Fingertips are pointed straight forward. If this is creating too much compression in your low back, lower down. Now find your breath and breathe into your belly button so that you feel your belly button pressing into the blanket or the mat. If you want to add another level of awareness, you can sink deeper into the front of your spine and breathe right in front of your spine into the anterior longitudinal ligament. So you can just feel skin sensation around the umbilicus, right? The navel, the belly button. Breathe into that or go deeper. There's a gentle sternum lift here. The breastbone is up. We're not forcing the lumbar vertebra, the low back, to make a change here. We're just really staying soft within the tissue. And we're going to lower down into crocodile. Crocodile is stacking the two hands in front of you, bringing the forehead right on top of the hands. And then we're going to do the same kind of navel breathing. So breathing around the umbilicus, the belly button. And then your awareness here, as you're breathing into it, think of it as like a water balloon breathing in to the blanket or the mat. So you're noticing how each breath creates a gentle pump like fluidity movement in your abdomen, your belly. If your glutes are engaged, let go of that engagement. Soften the glutes, soften your hip bones. With your next inhale, come back up to Sphinx pose. Come up onto the forearms. And again, just stay low behind any discomfort in the low back. But if it's comfortable for you, maybe you can lift through your breastbone a little bit more. And relax your glute muscles as you do this. Breathing into the belly button. Exhale, lower down, back to crocodile. I'm going to take 5 rounds of breath in crocodile. And come back up into Sphinx. And this time, tuck your toes. And lift with the breastbone. And after your next exhale, untuck the toes. We'll lower down one more time into crocodile. To add one more detail here, if you can find your sits bones, as you inhale, squeeze up through the sits bones a little bit, engaging the glutes, lifting up, and then exhale, release those glutes and that tension at the sits bones, and just kind of find that lifting of the pelvic diaphragm and releasing of the pelvic diaphragm for a few breaths. And we're going to press on up nice and slow and take it back to a child's pose for a counter pose for all that low back work. So that was a lot of front body, deep. Now we want to counteract that and allow some space between our vertebrae. You can take the breath into the kidneys. And if it's okay in your body to climb on up here into Hero's Pose Virasana, if that's difficult, you can slip a block in between the ankles and just sit right on top and have that support. So you pick what's most comfortable for your bodies. Just take it higher, especially if you're tight in the patella tendon wrapping over the kneecaps here. Taking a few deep breaths here. So the next pose we're going to do is downward facing dog. It's just more of a neutral posture. It will help us lengthen through our superficial back line and find that counterbalance with the superficial front line. If you're able to plant your hands and go all the way up, feel free to do that. For some, it may be easier to use blocks, and I'm going to pull my blanket out of the way to demo the block variation. And the reason why I start people often in blocks is because it helps them get their heels into the earth. Without the blocks, a lot of people can't meet their heels into the earth. And you can use this to walk the blocks around a little bit and find a different variation of downward facing dog. Really bringing that stretch through the gastrocnemiae and through the heels and the plantar fascia. If it's comfortable in your body, stay here. Blood pressure does go up in a down dog. Have your sternum lifting towards the head. And if it's comfortable for you, you can lower down to another level on the blocks, keeping the heels into the earth. I'm going to tiptoe the feet towards the hands. If you're on the blocks, this is a great opportunity to take a gentle half lift. Then exhale, bend through the elbows, forward fold. Let the arms hang. Micro bend through the knees. Let your chest come onto the quadriceps. Allowing gravity to create a little length through the spine. And imagine there's some clumps of weeds or grass on the ground that you can grab, and start to just reach with your fingers now to grab those clumps of grass. And we're going to use that to derotate through the long strap muscles of the back and just slowly come on up, restacking your spine as you come to standing. And I'm going to disappear off the screen. Let's see if I can, right. And as you come up to standing, just take a moment to find a mountain pose, a Tadasana. Feel your feet. Notice where the weight is. Is it back in your heels or is it in your toes? So most of my weight right now is in my heels. We're going to use a tennis ball next. And the tennis ball is going to go right in front of your heel of your right foot, right here in the padding. So not on the bone, just here in the front to talk to the plantar fascia. And I'm going to turn that to the side so you can see. And you can micro bend your knees a little bit if that helps soften the pressure. We're just meeting the sensational quality of the tissue here. If you don't have a tennis ball, you might have to improvise, but it is helpful to have something about a tennis ball resistance here. I find golf balls too hard, and a lot of the myofascial release balls are too tensionful in the quality they bring. Watch if you're scrunching up the muscles in your face or creating tension somewhere else. Also, your opposite foot is just soft and in the earth. We'll do this for up to 90 seconds. We're just helping to squeeze out the tissue in the bottom of the foot. Still taking big, beautiful breaths in, out to skin sensation. And slowly come off of that. You may need to wiggle the foot around a little bit. It's a big change. Stand and just feel any noticeable differences between the right foot and left foot, or the legs, or up into the hips. Maybe you feel a change all the way up through one side. And then we will do the opposite foot. So don't worry, if you started on your left foot, just do the right foot. Get them right in front of the heel. Meeting the sensational quality through the tissue. Staying with our breath for about 90 seconds. So allowing that change of that dense tissue, the plantar fascia on the base of the foot, to have an opportunity to change or rehydrate. And slowly come off the ball. You may want to wiggle that foot out a little bit. And now just stand in a mountain pose posture. Feel the bases of your feet. Notice if you notice any micro changes. Or sensation or feelings up through the left leg versus the right. And from here, we're just going to take 2 hands below the belly button, stacking them in mountain pose. You can close your eyes. Breathing into the navel center. Bringing your top hand on top of your sternum, connecting to heart energy. And right now we're just going to take that for a walk. So in the space that you're in, just take it for a little circle. Feel your feet. Notice the movement. Notice if you feel more rooted through the base of the feet. And based on what we did last week and this week, we're kind of looking for a balance now, integrity, if you will, through the front and the back body. And change your circle, go the other direction. Notice that. Look around in the room that you're in, the space, or if you're outside. I don't think much of us will be outside right now because it's the middle of winter. Good. Do a little eyeball reaching as you do that. And let's come back to the camera and we'll just close the practice together, bringing the hands up to the third eye. Bowing forward in namaste, we bring the hands down to the heart as we bow. Namaste.